Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Outliers YouTube and podcast series and our program Get to Know. I'm your host, DP Lyle, and I'm here with my co host and partner in crime, Kathleen Antrim.
Thanks, Doug. It's great to be here. Well, we've got another great interview for you. It's somebody we haven't had on before. We have Hannah Mary McKinnon. She's a big international bestseller. She has written, I believe, is it 9 or 11 books now?
11.
And you've written both standalones as well as series.
Just standalones.
Just standalones. Okay. So
Yes.
I want to ask you a little bit about your childhood. Our viewers know that I always like to kind of dig in. So if you need to lay down on the couch, we're good. You can go ahead. So what I would like to know is, do you feel your childhood contributed to you becoming a writer? Were you an outgoing child? Were you an introverted child? Did you read a lot? Did you have imaginary friends? Tell us about it.
Well, thanks for having me. That's such a great question. I think it must have done. It must have influenced my writing, I'm sure. I was pretty outgoing child, pretty outdoorsy. I was way more comfortable climbing trees with a penknife in my pocket than doing ballet, which I detested. I was quite tall for my age, so I felt like, this big, tall, clunky, clumsy kid in comparison to the other dainty little girls there. So yeah, I was quite happy in the tree. That was way more fun. But yes, I'm sure I read a lot. My mum used to give me lots of books. That's later when I was a teenager. But my parents, they used to read to my sister and me a lot. And then my sister, who's 2 years older, she used to read to me as well, which I remember her reading Asterix and Obelix in Switzerland and doing all these funny voices. And I love that. And I still remember that.
So you go on to have, I was reading a little about your bio. You went ahead and you went to university and you did the thing that all of us do. Well, not all of us, but most of us, study something in business because that's practical. So what made you decide to go ahead and start writing? And did you write as a child?
I did write as a child in school. I was the person who always said, "Oh, could we, Miss, Sir, could we please write an essay today? We haven't had a writing assignment for a while, but just something creative, something stories. Let me make up stories. I really love doing that." But yes, I then went on and had a big business career. And honestly, writing wasn't on my radar at all. I never thought as a kid that I would have a career as an author. I was focused on business. I wanted to be a company owner. That was my dream. It was the big cheese, big wig career, which I did have. And I was a partial shareholder of a company, and I was the big cheese because I was the CEO. But then the writing career, my second career, really came from moving to Canada, starting a company that failed, and being at this crossroads thinking, well, what do I want to do now? And it was my husband really who said, well, why don't you try something else if you don't want to keep doing the corporate thing? Try, what would you, if you could do anything, what would it be? And I half-heartedly said, well, I'd write a book, but only if I could do it successfully, because I don't want to fail again. And he said, well, if you don't try, you will never know. And here we are, book 11 about to publish.
That's amazing. So how long did it take you to get your first book published? Because it takes a lot to write a book and to learn the craft.
Well, I made quite a few mistakes. So I wrote the book very quickly and I gave it to my mum, who said it was great. And then I sent it to agents who said it wasn't.
Exactly.
Shocker. But they were very encouraging, actually. I mean, some didn't reply at all. Some just said no thanks. And some said, we like the idea, but the execution is flawed. So I took some courses. I joined a critique group. And I think from the initial idea to getting my agent, it was about 2 years.
That's
And
pretty fast.
then yeah, it wasn't too bad. And it was still the same book. And then it was about another 18 months for the book to get published, I think. Once we'd workshopped it, quite a lot actually. She went out and sold it pretty quickly. So I was very fortunate in that way. But I stuck with the book because I just felt that if people are saying it's a good idea but the execution is flawed, maybe I can work heavily on the execution. It's not the idea. I don't need to throw the idea away. I don't need to chuck the whole thing out and start all over again.
See, that's the right answer.
Yeah.
You take the criticism and you say, okay, this is what I need to do. Kathy knows this. My agent, when I sent my first novel to her, she called me a week later and said, there's a story in here somewhere. I just can't find it.
Right.
And I said, great, that's what I needed to hear. And 10 years
Yes.
later, that book got published after I'd published some other stuff. But the point is never give up. 3.5
Yes.
years from deciding you're going to do this to getting something in print is very, very good.
Mhm.
I think what it was that failed company that really lit
Yep.
this fire in my belly, where I just thought I'm going to do this, and I gave myself a short. I'm very deadline driven, probably from my corporate career, and I decided I'm going to give myself an amount of time and get this done and see where it takes me. And if it doesn't work, if I don't see things moving, then clearly I need to go and do something else.
Hmm.
And I'm glad things moved.
Fear is a great motivator.
Yes, yes,
It
yes, it
is.
can be short term. Yeah.
Yes.
I'll have another question for you real quick, and that is, what do you feel is more difficult for you, writing a book or having been a CEO and running business?
Gosh, that's completely different. So writing a book, I am responsible for myself and for the story and for the characters. Running a company with, oh gosh, I guess at the height there were 80 in-house, 600 externals. It that is different pressure because I always felt that if we didn't do well, if the company didn't do well, then it was other people's livelihoods and jobs on the line. I guess one could say that if my books flop and don't do well, of course that has an impact on the publisher and everybody who works there, and also my agent. But on the other hand, I'm not the only one publishing a book. so
Right.
so if my book at HarperCollins doesn't fly, others will pick up the slack. So
Mhm.
the responsibility is very different. It's very different.
Would you consider
Absolutely.
yourself an outliner or a pantser, as they say? Do you just go with the flow or do you create an outline before you start writing?
I'm a heavy outliner.
Yeah.
I definitely outline. I find it very difficult just to sit down, open up my laptop, and just see where the story takes me. I find that really intimidating because I think that I would just meander around, not really knowing where I'm going, and that doesn't feel comfortable to me. I like, if I'm going somewhere, I'll have a map. I'll have the
Right.
GPS, so I need to know where I'm going. Now, will the story always end up and the characters always end up where I initially planned? In the most recent books, yes. In everyone, no. Sometimes they
Right.
they have minds of their own, so to speak, or my subconscious anyway. But yes, I'm definitely an outliner, and that works for me. That's not to say it works for everybody who's writing
Mhm.
a book. Of course, we're all a little bit different in that, which is so fascinating. There's more than, I hate the expression, more than one ways to skin a cat, more than one way to skin a cat. Ugh. But there's
Exactly.
more than one way to write a book.
Yeah. Kathy's an outliner and I'm a pantser. So we
There you
Right.
go
go.
back and forth about it all the time. But whatever
Yeah,
works,
yeah,
works. So
exactly.
Yeah.
your latest book, let's talk about that. A Killer Motive. I mean, what a
Yes.
great cover, great title.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank
What's
you.
this all about? How did,
So a killer motive is the story of Stella, whose 18-year-old, sorry, almost 18-year-old brother goes missing from a beach party she takes him to, even though he's been grounded. He's not supposed to go out. He's grounded by his parents, but she sneaks him out of the house and he vanishes. He goes missing. 6 years later, Stella runs the cold case podcast called A Killer Motive. That's where the title comes from. And she says on the radio while promoting her show that if she had a single clue about what happened to Max, she would find him, she would bring the perpetrator to justice, and she would go beyond the ends of the earth to do so. and she doesn't know that somebody with information about Max is about to take her at her word. And then she gets an
Yes.
email.
That's what I loved about this book. I mean, I read it and just couldn't put it down. Um, and I love the premise. I love the premise that
Thank
this
you.
guy says, "Oh, really?
Yeah.
Look what I can do." And the next thing
Yes.
you know, the cat and mouse life and death game starts. And it is really, and it's a clever premise to start with
Thank
because
you.
how many kids didn't sneak out of the house? Yeah,
That's right.
especially to go where they weren't supposed to go in the middle of the
That's
night,
right.
and
Yep.
then it all goes sideways. And very well done. How long did it take you to write this book? I
I
mean, now
think
that you've got into your career and you're rolling, as they say.
yeah, I think the plot, so the outline with everything, character interviews and sorting out a map because I set it in Maine. That took me a little bit. So the outline was probably 3 or 4 weeks, I'd say.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then actually writing it, if I kind of smoosh it all together, because I was jumping from one project to the other, as we often do when we have
Hmm.
multiple books, um, probably 4.5 to 5
Yeah.
months for that draft to go to, for my first draft, which I'd
Right.
gone over, 10 times,
Right.
that I then sent to my agent and my editor. About that.
So you
Okay.
write fast. That's fantastic.
That's good.
I
Yeah.
think so. I mean, compared to people who write 3 or 4 books a year, no.
Yeah.
But I've done two a year, and that's a fair old clip. One is just about right. But I guess so. Yeah, I guess I write the first draft pretty quickly. But I think that's because for me, because I outline, I know where I'm
Right.
going.
So
Yeah.
it's
Sure.
really like the second run through when you actually write
Yes.
the novel. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you like first drafts best or do you like editing best? Seems like writers are divided on that fence too. Oh, I loved the first draft. I hate first drafts, but I love editing.
I like
Yes,
editing too.
I'm the same. Honestly, I'm working on the first draft of book 12 right now, and even though I have an outline and I've thought about this book a lot and I know the characters and blah blah, I'm already thinking, why isn't this done already? I
Right.
find filling 250 to begin with, 250 blank pages
Right.
is a slog.
Yes.
Going back to editing or being able to start go back to the beginning and okay, now I've got something I can work with is for me far more enjoyable because there's stuff there, there's stuff to polish, to make shine, to get rid of,
Right.
stuff that sparks other ideas. I'm thinking, and then I get really geeky, I'm on page 297, I think, oh wait, if I add blah blah to page 33,
Right.
haha, it looks like I'd thought this through all along and I hadn't. It was a later edition. And I love that. It's really discovering the characters and their motivations and just building out their world a lot more is far more enjoyable than writing what really reads like stilted dialogue and rubbish
Right.
descriptions.
Well, as I
That's
said, writing is rewriting, and I think you laid that out pretty well. It sounds like you write your first draft pretty quickly and
yes.
don't do a whole lot of editing except fix little minor things, and then you get into the meat of making the
Yes.
story good. Yeah,
Yes, yes. Yeah, round two, round three, round four, those will be the ones where there's a
exactly.
lot of editing that goes on, even though I've outlined, sure, but
Sure.
that's just to figure out the structure, really. It's not all of the twists and turns or all of the descriptions or anything like that. It really is pretty bare bones. Um, so yeah, editing is fun.
Yes.
Filling
Yes.
200 odd blank pages, not so much.
No, yeah. You can't edit a blank page, as they
You
say.
That's
Yes.
cannot.
exactly right. Yeah. So Hannah, it's been so great to have you. Can you tell our viewers where they can learn more about you, where they can get your books?
Yes, of course. So my website is Hannah Mary McKinnon. The Mary's important. I have an American counterpart called Hannah McKinnon, who writes gorgeous family-driven stories, but that's not me. So dark hair, dark books.
Yeah.
Mine are the thrillers with the Mary. So Hannah Mary McKinnon, which that's also my social media on Instagram or Facebook. Predominantly those two. That's where they can find me.
Well,
Cool.
thank you so much for being with us. You're a great interview. So
Oh,
we're
thank you.
working on this book number 12, and we're going to have you back when that one's coming out.
I
Yes.
would love that. Yes, please count me in. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you.
And I want to ask our viewers to please click the thumbs up. It helps with the algorithms and gets these interviews out. And if you like what we're doing here, please subscribe. It's free to subscribe. You just click the little button, and then that way you will not miss an interview. Doug, back to you.
Hannah, thank you so, so, so much. This has been a pleasure. And I
Thank you.
do love A Killer Motive. It's a great book. I recommend everybody go and read it. It is dark and twisty and a psychological match. And those kinds of things are always fun to read. I think you did a great job with it. And I know you'll do a great job with the next one, in spite of all the angst you're having right now. Don't we always have first draft angst? So we do
Keeps us
want
on
you
our
back,
toes.
guaranteed. We want you back. So let us know when this one gets ready to go, the next one, and we'll set up a time and do this whole thing again. It'll be so much fun.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much again.
Until then, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching us. As you know, this is the Outliers YouTube and podcast series known as Get to Know. We will be back with more interviews and more fun. And until then, remember, keep reading, keep writing, keep having fun, and try not to get caught.